All right, welcome back. If you've ever been to New Orleans, chances are you've passed through Jackson Square. You may not have known that you were passing through Jackson Square. You probably were strolling by, having a beignet, doing your thing, and you look up at this big statue and you go, who's that guy? Well, that was Andrew Jackson. So Andrew Jackson in the late 1700s, early 1800s is probably one of the most influential Americans. And he's got a lot of folks in his day who really felt inspired by his rise, by his activism. But you also have a number of individuals who loathe him, and you have a tarnished legacy, tattered legacy, difficult legacy that we certainly need to account for in the 21st century. So the five things then we're going to talk about with Andrew Jackson are his role in the Revolutionary War, the War of 1812, the Jacksonian Democrats, Indian removal, and the concept of nullification. So Jackson is someone who comes of age quickly. During the American Revolution, he was a very young man, early preteens basically, and is supposedly involved in an altercation where a British officer tries to slash at him, and he puts his hand up, to stop it. And so he has supposedly shed blood for he's shed blood for the country. And after the Revolutionary War, Jackson, travels west and starts to make a name for himself in places like Tennessee. But he comes to the national forefront more so in the era of the War of 1812. So the War of 1812, by 1813, 1814, has gone nationwide. You've seen the bombardments in Baltimore and the storming at D.C. and by late 1814 you'll have the Treaty of Ghent, really kind of bringing an end to the war diplomatically. But in early 1815, Jackson is the commander of a combined force that defeats the British in really the last major battle of the war. And it became famous because it was a clear American victory, but also it was a clear American victory right at the end of the war. And so the American press is able to hold on to this, and Jackson becomes a national hero. And this really kind of propels him into the political limelight. Now, that political limelight grows further in the 1820s, where Jackson will become the leader of a national political party where he will challenge for the election in 1824, although he will lose in what is referred to as the corrupt bargain. Now, Jackson will win in 1828, and his brand of sort of party patronage will sort of descend upon Washington. And chroniclers at the time, of course, thought it was as if the barbarians were descending upon Rome. So, these individuals were not perhaps well liked by aspects of the Washington establishment. They were a bit scared of Jackson. Now, Jackson, throughout the first term of his presidency, will support a number of different pieces of legislation, one of which is something called the Indian Removal Act. Now, the whole idea with this and the subsequent acts and legislation that will move forward is the removal of indigenous people east of the Mississippi, west of the Mississippi. There'll be the creation of reservations, and this is a process that will more fully take place after Jackson's presidency is over, and the Trail of Tears with the death of thousands of indigenous people. But this discussion about the treatment of indigenous people certainly, is a part of Jackson's presidency. Another part of this, and the last point for us here, is nullification. So, as a part of the American system, some legislators had supported stronger protective tariffs in order to protect American industries. And Congress, Southern congressmen in particular, and others did not think that those tariffs were perhaps equitable. And so their opposition, particularly in South Carolina, led to a nullification crisis that in many ways foreshadowed the secession declarations in 1860 and in early 1861. Although the nullification crisis dies down, partly due to Jackson's actions and a renegotiated tariff, it was clear, even in the late 1820s, early 1830s, that individuals like John C. Calhoun and others were articulating a vision of state sovereignty different from their counterparts like Daniel Webster and other senators. Thank you very much.